Last week, I shared all about how I just redesigned my whole Showit website from scratch after years of having the same design, generally that I just kept adding pages to over time. So it was time now for a total overhaul and absolutely love the new website. And today I'm sharing 6 things I learned from designing for myself that you can apply to your own business, whether you're customizing a website template, like, hello, I have so many great ones you can buy if you're looking for a Showit template, or if you're simply updating your current website every now and then. These tips will help you as a non-designer, or if you are a designer like myself, just in general, if you are working with websites, updating them, designing something new, if maybe you're thinking about rebranding or getting a new website sometime in the future, these things are really going to help you. And these are fresh because I literally just launched, as I'm recording this, the site went live yesterday. I just finished up this project. So these are things that I learned in real time that you can apply to your business. So let's get to it. Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, an online educator for entrepreneurs, website designer, wife, boy mom, and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want to dive deep into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a sustainable business that fits your unique lifestyle while standing out in a crowd, then you are in the right place. I created a multiple 6-figure a year business in my early 20s, and now in my 30s, I'm still running that successful multiple 6-figure a year business on just part-time hours now as a working mom. I'm here to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe that the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, website design, personal branding, mindset, time management as a busy parent, scalable and passive income, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. All right, guys, I'm so excited to chat about this. So for context, I shared last week on episode 282, if you want to go back to listen to that. You don't have to listen to that one, though, to get this one. But I shared on that episode all about my rebrand and new website. And you can see it at elizabethmccravey.com. And that whole project, if you listen to that episode, you heard me here that the whole thing took almost a year to finish with a 4-month maternity leave in the middle and with me only working part-time in my business when I was not on maternity leave. So not actually a year, right, of like full-on working on it, but a lot of time, right? Like this has been something on my brain. And if you want to go back to when I actually booked the project before we started on it with the branding agency I worked with, that was in April of last year. So it's been a while, right? And some of that project, right, was the brand visuals, like the new logo, colors, fonts, patterns, all of that. And then that was for my sub brands and my main Elizabeth McCravey brand. Plus, there was time spent doing things like updating email signatures, the freebie designs, course banners, checkout pages, all of that kind of stuff. And then after all those things were done, it was redesigning my website, which actually took much less time than you'd think. And I was actually shocked seeing how little time it took. So after launching the site last week, I've actually gotten a lot of people messaging me with shocked feedback that it was done so quickly because even people can see like, hey, I kind of changed the visuals on the old site and then I had a maternity leave and then it's like, oh wait, now the new website's here, and it felt really quick. And it was about 110 pages in Showit that I did fairly quickly. So we started that project, right? Like officially really started working on it mid-June, and then it was finished mid-August. So 2-ish months. And then I would actually tack on a 3rd month just when we think about the math of it for when I started on things last year, because I kind of started on stuff, I dabbled in it before my maternity leave. So 2 to 3 months, depending on how you want to look at it, for what it took me to do this project. And yes, that was with some team members helping. I did not do every single page myself, especially pages like all the freebie pages I had help with. But I think this is still an impressively quick time span, right, for that many pages. But at the same time, it's not, because I think it's something you too could do, regardless of your website size. I think there are ways to make this process smoother, more fun, and help keep yourself motivated as you are doing the big task of either designing a website for the first time or redesigning a website. And whether you're working just from scratch or from a template, doesn't matter. these tips I'm sharing are going to help. And these are things I really, as I was doing this project, I kept a note in my phone where I was writing down tips that came to me for this episode, thinking, hey, eventually I'm going to record an episode about this. These are things that came to me. So these are 6 things that I think helped me move quickly while also being really detail oriented and putting tons of thoughts into the site. It's very intentionally designed. So I didn't just throw something up. In fact, I really, probably spent too much time on some of the pages, like obsessing over getting them just right. But still, the project moved fast, and these are things that I think help. So here they are, and things you can apply to your own business, no matter what your situation is with design. So first thing, the order that you design in matters, because some pages are harder to get going on than others. And I really do think this is so true. So like in our head, we think you start with the home page, right? Because that's the page that you're driving the most traffic to, is probably the most visited page, which is actually why it's not the best page to start with, because it's a more stressful page to design. It's often longer, etc. So often I actually give the advice to template customers to start with the contact page. Okay. Why? Why start with the contact page? The reason I like starting the contact page is because it's an important page. So you'll feel momentum after doing it, like you got something done. It actually does have design things on it. So you're not just doing something that has no design, but it's just like text. And it's an important page, right? So it's a good quick win. Whereas things like your homepage or course sales page or your blog pages take more time and require a lot more decisions to be made, and they're often longer. So what I did for this whole process, I actually started with the homepage against my own advice, and I stopped very quickly because it was too overwhelming. I felt that. I felt what I'm telling you right now of like, oh my gosh, like there's so many decisions to be made, and you're really trying to, whether you're customizing a template or designing from scratch, you're trying to figure out like, okay, what's the vibe of what I'm doing here? And the homepage is not a great place to figure that out. So I stopped on it pretty quickly, but that was what I was working on in like December of last year when I started on it. And then again, it was overwhelming, and it caused me to just end up like pausing on the whole project, which I paused it for other reasons too, right? I was working on my course Podcast Success Blueprint, and I was preparing for another baby and a maternity leave and all that. But the first page I truly completed was the contact page. And then another early page I completed was the about page, and then all the freebie pages for like lead magnets and opt-ins. So just as you think about designing your own website, those are all pages I'd recommend starting with. I recommend starting first with the contact page. If you're like, I don't know where to start, there's so many potential pages to work on, start with the contact page. It's a page every business needs, and it's fairly simple to design. I actually have an episode on this podcast where I walk through strategy of a contact page. So if you want to listen to that, I will link to that in the show notes. It's a really great episode and one of the really popular ones on this podcast from many years ago now. And then other pages to start would be the about page, right? Because it's about you. It's often fun to design, a lot of different layouts going. And when you think about customizing a template, there's often, especially in my website templates, which you can find at elizabethmccravey.com/shop, it kind of feels a little bit like Mad Libs. Like it's set up well for you to add your copy and images into fairly easy. And then freebie pages as well are that same dynamic. And all my templates actually come with 2 landing page designs. And then I also have the landing page bundle that you can buy for a bunch of extra designs. But yeah, all the templates come with those too. So you're ready to go with some designs to get you started that you can use for your different lead magnets. So anyway, those are the first pages, right? And then things like the menu and the footer of the website actually finished up a lot later. And then this is crazy. So like, it's almost like I started with the homepage and ended with the homepage, but the homepage I did not finish until days before I launched. Like a lot of it was done, right? But the hero section, like the top section of the homepage, I tried a bunch of different styles on, and I actually had a whole different design that when in June, when I was kind of working on it, that I thought was it. And I realized it was not it. And so I really finished it up just days before going live. So just know that the homepage does not need to be the page you start with. Same for menus and footers. And another thing too, just a quick little sub tip here in this tip number 1, but whenever I needed a break on thinking big and creatively on some of those harder pages, right? Like once you've done something like the contact page and now maybe the about page is a tough one, right? It's a good one, but a tough one, or like a course sales page and things like that. Whenever I needed a break on those, I would do an easier or simple page, something like a terms and conditions page, or like, I'm trying to think of other examples. Those were ones that I kind of did. It's just like random ones. The 404 page might be another one because there's only so much you can put on there. So anyway, The big advice from this tip though, start with your contact page or opt-in pages as your first focuses on the new website. Let the homepage be something that evolves over time, and same thing for the menu and footer. And then when you need to break mentally from those harder pages, work on something like your terms and conditions page, your FAQ page, things like that aren't really text heavy, that are really text heavy and not design heavy, because those are going to be easier and you'll get that quick win. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, focus on organizing the project really well. And I do not mean in Showit where you're building the website. So when I came back to work on this website post-maternity leave, and it was like, okay, this is the big project. This is what I'm focusing on. As I'm back from having a baby, this is the big project I'm doing in my business. The first thing I did was organize the project in ClickUp, which is the project manager I use. And once I got going on the organization and had all these, because it's a lot of pages, right? Once I had those all in there, the pages felt less overwhelming. It felt much easier because I was able to see, okay, it's a lot of pages, but 20 of them are all lead magnet pages, right? And those are going to be fairly quick to get through. Things like that I started to see. And then I started to be able to see, okay, where do I want to start first? What would make sense to have a team member help with? What's something that I want to do myself? All these different things. So yeah, the ClickUp organization for tracking pages and the stages was really key because there's so many. And if I had not done it in ClickUp, I think I would have literally left some pages off that needed to go onto the website. But instead I was able to look through my entire old website, put them all in, and then I knew these are all the pages that need to be redone on the new website. So every page that needed to be done was in ClickUp as a task by category of pages. So for example, that means that there's a home page task, an about page, a contact page, blog, service page. All those pages are a task in ClickUp. And then I had them sorted into categories of pages. So I had all the blog pages together because in Showit, if you use Showit before, you know that there's blog home, category, single post, 404, search. Those are all different pages within the blog you got to redesign. I had all my shop pages together because I have a lot of templates. There's over 30 of them. So those all had their own page, and those were all grouped together in ClickUp because in a way, those are all going to be tackled similarly, right? There's certain things on each of those pages that are designed similar. So those need to all be grouped together. I had all the freebies pages grouped together. And then I had a section for pages I think I might just delete. I would figure out what needed to be changed for them to go away because I didn't know that I wanted them anymore. And then in addition to that, I had statuses that each page would go through for my process. I'm going to read those statuses to you right now. And I'm also going to put a screenshot of this in the blog post for this episode. You can get that at elizabethmccravey.com/283 if you want a visual just to reference for yourself. But here's what the statuses were. Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. Not started on, which is what every page's first status was, then in progress, ready for Stacy's cleanup, which is one we used for some of the pages that I did completely myself, but then I wanted Stacy to review after. Stacy is one of my team members who helped me a lot on this website redesign. And so I would put something like, for example, the homepage I did myself, but then I put it as ready for Stacy's cleanup so she could go in and like double check everything. Okay, waiting on feedback was another status. Done, ready for proofing. So that means like that would be like for a team member has done the page and then it's ready for me to proof. Done, need linking an additional copy. And then there's done, needs testing. And then there is done, and no longer using. So it feels so funny because I had 3 different done statuses, right? Done needs links and additional copy, done needs testing, and then done. And the way I see those is like the done needs links and additional copy. For example, my about page ended up in that category for a while because I designed it all and then I got a little exhausted and there were some sections of it where I'm like, okay, I still got to write all the copy for this section, but I feel like I'm kind of like wiped on this right now. I'm wiped out on it. I need to wait. And so go to that category. Done need testing is where like all the blog pages went when I finished those because I wanted to obviously test them before calling them completely done. And then done is obviously like, hey, the page is good to go. There's nothing extra. There's no links needed, nothing left. So those are the statuses. And the no longer using was for those pages where I had them on the old website, but I was figuring out like, okay, do I still need this? And then I ultimately had decided to part with. So if you're customizing a website template, the way I would recommend doing this is in ClickUp or whatever project manager you use. And maybe I'll make a template for this at some point that you guys can access. I think that'd be really cool. And I wish I had that already ready for this episode, but I don't. So there's something to stay tuned on. Get on my email list and you can kind of watch for something like that to come. Because I do think I'll turn this ClickUp system I'm talking about into a template other people can use. But if this was for a website template, what I would recommend doing is once you bought your template, look at all the pages, home, about, service page 1, ways to work together, blog home, all those things. Look at all those pages, put them in the tasks as ClickUp. And then for yourself, think about like, okay, what are other pages? Like maybe you have 3 lead magnets. Put in those 3 lead magnets as task and ClickUp. Maybe you have 3 different services that are all going to need their own service page. Maybe you're having a portfolio page. You put those different things in and then you can kind of follow this system. And again, you don't need ClickUp for this. You could use whatever project manager you like. I really love ClickUp. You can find out more about ClickUp at elizabethmccravey.com/ClickUp. And then also I had Courtney from Systems Up on my podcast on episode 222. And I interviewed her all about ClickUp. She's actually who moved my business from Basecamp to ClickUp like over 2 years ago now. It might even be longer than that. But I did that project with her and we talk about all about ClickUp, how you can use it, what it is, how it works on that episode. So that's a really fun one, episode 226. So yeah, that's a huge tip though. And again, I think that's something that really kept the project moving along quickly. All right, my third tip for you as you think about designing your own website. Some days it will feel like you accomplished nothing, even though you spent hours working on this project. And I felt this, I don't know if I'll be able to like speak very clearly on this, but as I was working on this project, I felt like it really reminded me of how days sometimes feel in motherhood, where it can feel like, wait, I was taking care of this small child or these small children all day. I feel like I didn't really accomplish anything, yet you actually accomplished so much, right? Like you were changing the diaper, you were feeding the baby, you were playing with him, you were doing all these things all day, but it can feel like you accomplished nothing. Maybe you did not get to some other things in your to-do list. I feel like that is how the website process felt for me some days. So some days it would feel like I made no progress. Like maybe I worked an entire workday, which for me might not have been that many hours, but like I worked on a whole page. And then I leave the workday and the page isn't even close to being done. And I'm like, where is the finish line? It feels like I'm never going to finish this. And then some of those pages, right, where I was like super reimagining the content or it was a page that wasn't even on my previous website, they took so much time to create. And it feels like you're not moving forward. It feels like you're not accomplishing anything, but you actually are. And then I also had plenty of times where I spent a long time designing something only to decide I did not like it and just change it later. So things like that are just constantly happening, right? And just know that like that's normal. That's part of the process. I felt it too. And so like as you're customizing your template or designing a new website, just know that like, yeah, there might be one page where you spend like 6 hours on it or longer, whatever amount of time. And then there's another page where you spend 10 minutes on it. And different pages are going to carry different weights and how much time you spend. And there's some pages you'll make decisions on like that. Some pages where you'll really struggle to make decisions. It's all okay. You will get it launched. That's just part of the process. Okay, number 4. Oh, this is such a good one. Hear me on this. It is always worth it to design well, even when a new site is on your radar, even when the site you're designing on now, you know, is not your forever website. Even if you're designing something you don't have a website yet, it's kind of your in-between. It's always worth it to design well. It'll save you so much time in the future. So for me, this is another way that the site moved quickly. All of last year, I knew this huge overhaul was coming, but I still focused on great design on my old website. Even though I was like kind of over it, I wasn't liking a lot of it. I still focused on great design, great base for everything as I added new pages. So all the various pages I made last year for things like new quizzes that were added, new sales page for courses and for my templates, or new opt-ins, like those were all pages that got added to my website last year. I mean, definitely at least 10 to 15 pages got added last year. I focused on designing them well within my old design parameters. So then when we brought them over to the new website, they felt good. I was like, yeah, like this design's great. It just needs a new brand. It just needs those new fonts and colors. Besides that, it's good. So don't get lazy just because you know you're designing something new in the future. So this can apply to things like the design and the copywriting. So as an example, for copywriting, maybe you're putting your content about your service on a PDF that you're making in Canva for now until you have a website. Because you're like, I don't have a website yet. I'm saving up for that. I'm going to do that later. So on my to-do list for later this year, I'm making a PDF for now. Write it well in preparation for the website to save time later so that when you go to have your website, once you purchase that website template, all you have to do is put the content from that PDF onto the website page. Maybe it's a sales page where you know you're going to rebrand the course later and you're going to write new copy after the launch. Still design the sales page well, and then those other things will come easier when you redesign later or when you have a new course sales page or whatever it is. So anyway, this was just really huge for me because a lot of the web pages truly needed a major overhaul. Like a lot of my pages that had been around a long time, like for example, my about page, I didn't really have an about page for like 2 years. So I literally just started from scratch on that. But more of my pages actually just needed to be updated with my new branding. And this is because I continue to focus on good design, on good copy, on all the things with a new website on the horizon. And so when we think about template customization specifically, this really applies well to that because maybe the pages on your current website have solid copy, solid images, because you keep focusing on this while you save up for a new website. So now, boom, you buy the new template, and now all you need to do is place that copy and those images into the new template design. I see this all the time with my template customers, which by the way, most of my customers actually looking through this with reviews are spending less than a month getting their website up, whether it's their first website ever or this is a redesign. That's like the most answered amount of time for people who leave me feedback when I ask that question of like, hey, how long did it take this? Less than a month is the most common amount of time. And a lot of people being more like a week. And this kind of stuff can really help you achieve that. Okay, and my final 2 tips for you. Tip number 5, keep multiple spots for you to put content, ideas, and inspiration as they come to you. So I randomly would get inspiration for copywriting or like an idea for a design related thing. And I would add those ideas into a note on my phone just called website design ideas. I also had an idea area in ClickUp as well, but I really like the phone's notes app for this because it's always with you. I remember on my maternity leave specifically, I had so many random moments where I had a little good just statement of copy come to me. And it would often be like when I'm rocking Ethan, holding him for a nap. And I'd just like think of something that like relates to what I'm doing right now in my life that I can incorporate onto my website. And I would write it in that document. Again, I had another area in ClickUp on my computer, but I really like that notes area because you will for sure forget things if you don't write it down. So just save the ideas somewhere. And also if you're someone again, who maybe you're not working on your new website yet, but you know it's on the horizon, this is a great thing to do as you prepare for a new website before you even start. So think about copy inspiration, design inspiration. Maybe it's that you have the idea of all of a sudden you're like, oh, I want a drop down menu about this thing, or I want to do a section about my podcast that promotes it in this way. Whatever it is, keep spots for you to add that content. And then my final tip, okay, and this is like the biggest one. It's a big one. It's a hard one, but you got to stop tinkering at some point and just launch the thing. I was so guilty of this. So this is me giving advice to myself, and I did give this advice to myself. But what happened for me is once I got close to finishing the website, I would go back to pages that I'd already marked as that done marking and ClickUp, and I would add more things. And I was doing this ironically when I had some key difficult pages still to do. Like one of the last pages I designed on the new site was my podcast page. And that was one I was starting over completely from scratch, doing on my own. And I was like procrastinating it by doing random things like a color change on my terms and conditions page, or like adding another animation to my 404. So it's like I'm going to the other page, adding animation, changing a color, rewriting the copy, changing an image, and it's got to stop at some point. You've just got to launch. And I did the same thing on my homepage where I just kept tweaking it. And at one point I started to be like, I don't even know if I like any of this. And Stacy, who I said is my team member that I was working on this project a lot with, she kindly reminded me on Slack. She was like, Elizabeth, you've been staring at it too long. It looks great. You just need to like mark that page as done. And so I want to tell you that same reminder that you probably just been staring at it too long. It looks great. Just launch it. And then also I want to remind you, and this is something I've always known myself as a website designer, but a website is never truly finished. And that's not a sad or bad thing. And to be clear on this, what I mean, the project of the design does get finished, right? For me, mine is raising my hand. This is not a big project on my to-do list anymore. It was something I focused on deliberately in my business for like 2 months straight, a year-ish for the whole rebrand. And now it's done, which feels so good to say. And I will say that relief and that excitement, and that exhilaration of launching the thing feels as good as you think it's going to. It feels really, really great. The launch for me as I'm recording this was literally yesterday, and it felt so good having it live, letting people see it. Adam and I celebrated with crumble cookies last night, and I celebrated all day hanging out with my kids. So it's like, it feels good. It feels as good as you're imagining to get the thing done. And so that thing will be done, right? It will get marked off your to-do list. But there will always be changes to do on your website, updates, additions, minor tweaks, all the things. So whether it's a small change, like every year, changing out the date in the footer, your copyright date, like that's something really quick, right? Or updating images after you do a new brand photo shoot, or maybe it's a large thing, like adding a new page for a product or offer, doing a page that has all your Black Friday deals. Whatever it is, it's always going to be evolving. So what I would recommend is let the project part be done, even if you feel like, man, there's this other page I really want to do, but I know it's going to take this much more time. It's going to take another week. Just get the thing launched. Do that other page later. Like you're going to think of all these random things to keep adding. Do those later. And speaking of lists, like I talked about in point number 5, keep a list of like the future pages you want to tackle another time, but get the core thing live. So I have this as well. I have a note that's like, these are page ideas that I think would be really cool to add, that would be building from scratch, that are literally did not exist on my old website, do not exist on my current website, but I would love to have that I did not do. I did not get to them because I had enough to do with this redesign, right? So like you can add those other pages later and just know it's never truly done, but the project will be done, but your website's always evolving. So just launch it. Just let the part be done and launch it perfectly. On your launch day, you will probably get messages from kind people who love you and love your business telling you they found something that didn't work, right? So like for me yesterday, I had a sweet fellow designer message me that the booked out designer sales page on the mobile view, there was one section that was, again, back on my tweaking. It was something I tweaked kind of towards the end. I added an extra icon on that section that says course overview. And on the mobile site, the icon was just huge and covering all the text. And that was something I missed. And she caught that and told me, and I fixed it. So like, you're going to have things like that. It's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect when you launch it. Let people catch your mistakes, catch things that aren't working, and fix it in real time. That's how you evolve. That's how you launch things, and all work out great. So yeah, that's it. I hope this was so helpful. And just a reminder for you as you think about designing in your business that I do have, I mentioned this before, if you've been around a while, you know this, but maybe you're new here. I create and design Showit website templates, and I have a whole catalog of really beautiful, really strategic. I love to focus on SEO. I love to focus on using color and brand personality in the way I design, and have a ton of templates and add-on templates, things like sales pages, a Canva workbook, podcast pages, a speaker template even, which is hard to find. I think that's like the only one that exists in like Showit template world, but speaker template for pitching yourself for public speaking. There's so many things. You can find them all on my newly designed website, elizabethmccravy.com/shop. And if you are looking at the templates and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know which one to pick, go to elizabethmccravy.com/quiz, and you can take a quiz where I will match you with some templates that might fit your style to attract your specific ideal clients and meet your business needs. And also with that quiz, you get 10% off your template and you get some Canva templates that match your website style. So it's like win-win-win. You get the Canva templates for free, then you get 10% off if you do choose to buy a template, and you get recommended templates for you. And in addition to that, I'm always available. So come message me, hello@elizabethmccravy.com, and let me know what you're looking for in a template, what your business is, and things like that. And we can help you figure out what template is right for you. So to recap those tips real quick, and then we're going to sign off here. Number one, the order you design things in matters. So like I said, starting with something like the contact page versus the homepage is really smart. Number two, organize your project well so that it can be a well-managed, quicker working project. And I use ClickUp for that. And number three, some days it's going to feel like you accomplished nothing, even though you spent hours working on it. That's just part of the process. Number four, it's worth it to always design well, even when you know the site you're on now is not your forever website. Number five, keep multiple spots for you to put content ideas and inspiration into as they come to you, like on your phone. And then number six, you got to stop tinkering at some point and just launch the thing. So that is it. Thanks for listening. I really hope these tips help you. And again, you can reference the blog post as well if you want to see some visuals around that ClickUp area. And if you're listening to this in the future, go to that blog post too, because I may have created a ClickUp template for this that you can access there. All right. So that's it, my friends. You can check out the templates at elizabethmccravy.com/shop. And I'll be back next week with an interview episode, actually, that I'm really excited for you guys to hear. Thanks so much for listening. Bye. Hey, thank you for listening to the podcast all the way to the end. I appreciate you being here. And if you enjoyed this episode, then I want to invite you to check out my website template shop too. Over on elizabethmccravy.com, you'll find Showit website templates that are easy to use, strategically designed, and created to help you make more money from your website. Maybe your current website is really boring, maybe it's a challenge to update, and maybe it's even the thing you feel like is holding your business back. Your website needs to be strategically and intentionally designed in order for it to convert your viewers into raving customers, and that's exactly what my templates do. These templates are designed to be SEO friendly on the back end, not just pretty, and also strategic with all the strategies I teach on the show, and they are easy for you to set up all by yourself. So shop them at elizabethmccravy.com/shop and come join thousands of happy customers using these templates. And as an added perk, you can use the code BBPodcast at checkout to get 10% off your template as a thank you for being part of the podcast fam. Again, that's BBPodcast for 10% off any template over on elizabethmccravy.com. Also, if you loved this episode, leaving a rating and review for the show on wherever you're listening or sharing it with a friend is a great way to support this podcast. Thank you again for listening, and I'll be back next week with a new episode.